Hello and welcome to another episode of The Grindbin. I'm Mike Wood.
I'm Chris Mann.
Today we're going to be talking about 1982's The Last American Virgin.
Some people just can't get it in.
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Yeah, I made the team. But you're a hooker.
Get that goddamn thing out of your mouth.
This bookie got no field coach.
Hello, pizza man.
We're gonna play a little game, baby.
I just love fun and games. Get a little girl, a little hot and horny.
You could have looked decent once in a while. And maybe Daddy would decide to kill himself because he couldn't get it up anymore.
What a shame.
Come on, just step on the gas before we get creepy.
And the movie we're covering tonight on the podcast is a request, actually, a listener request from someone who has taken us up on our promotion of if you rate and review this show on iTunes, you can request a movie for us to cover on the Grindbin.
And it goes to the top of the bin.
So Kevin, our listener Kevin, thank you so much for recommending The Last American Virgin. We were going to have Kevin on the show, believe it or not, because that's another part of promotion.
Yeah.
If you want to be on the show and talk to us about why we should cover your movie, you can. Just take us up on it. He was going to join us, but he's feeling a little bit under the weather.
Sorry, Kevin.
But Kevin might make another appearance in the future.
I like this.
We'd love to have you on, and he can have another movie for us to watch.
Yeah, makeup movie.
But yeah, if you want us to cover your movie, get with it like Kevin. This guy knows what's up, man.
Yeah.
Request your damn movie and rate and review.
How hard is this?
Jesus fucking Christ. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your review.
You're the man.
Before we get into talking about the movie today, let's take a listen to the trailer.
And now let's all get serious.
Hey, you pervert! Get out of my...
Come on, move. 1, 2, 3. Hi.
Come on, go!
96, 97, 98, 99.
Now you two have fun.
It's alive.
The Last American Virgin, featuring songs by Blondie, The Cars, Devo, Journey, The Police, REO Speedwagon, Tommy Two-Tone, and more. The Last American Virgin. See it or be it.
Yeah.
Shake it up.
Film seems like a situation where the soundtrack was compiled before the script was written.
Oh boy, it seems that way.
Yeah.
I've never seen a trailer that has that low amount of dialogue in it.
Right.
It was just song after song after song, and then they marketed it as, come just listen to the soundtrack this fall.
It's like when Angus came out in the 90s.
I remember that.
I saw that in theaters.
Featuring with Green Day in the movie Angus.
I saw that opening morning.
Opening morning. One lonely man with his ticket.
Mm-hmm. Green Day shirt on.
So you couldn't tell by the trailer if you're listening, but you certainly could see it. This is a Canon film. And as we know, Crown International might be the mark of quality for the 70s, but Canon Film Group, boy, they are the mark of quality for the 80s. Oof. We've covered a few Canon films on this podcast before, including Kinjite. This is actually a really important movie, though, for Canon. This is a remake of a movie, believe it or not.
Oh.
Of an Israeli movie, which is still, to this day, one of the most popular films in Israel.
Oh, interesting.
The original name was Lemon Popsicle.
Yeah.
It was made in 1978.
Yeah, I know that.
It was written and directed by the same man who wrote and directed this movie. It was produced by Golan and Globus of Canon Films. They brought it over here to make it into a hit in America like it was in Israel, because that movie was so popular in Israel, it actually had 8 sequels.
That's incredible.
They originally intended for this film to be a series of films, and all of the titles would start with The Last American and then fill in the blank.
Yeah.
The original film, Lemon Popsicle, was set during the 1950s, but this remake instead was updated to bring in the 1980s and to get in all that soundtrack from the 80s as opposed to the 50s music that they had in the original.
See if they followed. Well, Back to the Future hadn't come out yet. So there you go.
The movie and its precursor, Lemon Popsicle, were both based on a situation which actually happened to the film's director and writer, Bose Davidson, during his youth. The director once said, and this is interesting, that he'd like to use raw actors who were unknowns, and all the actors we're going to go through, all the kids in this movie, was their first movie, because he said they are, quote, virgins to film. Which is, I would say, an accurate statement.
Yeah.
He gets pretty good performances out of everybody in this movie, and they all seem like real kids to me.
Yeah, nothing seemed disingenuous of any of the scenes.
And I have to say that the one uncomfortable thing about this movie is it's a sex comedy.
Yeah.
But all the kids seem of the correct age,
Yeah.
which is kind of disturbing in a way, because we're so used to watching these movies where all the guys are in their 30s playing high schoolers, and these are guys that are definitely bordering on 20.
Yeah, how many more fucking movies am I going to see Paul Rudd play a high schooler? Like, get the fuck out of here. Seriously.
He looked old and clueless, you know.
Yeah.
And that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So the movie opened in late July of 1982, right between the release of Porky's in 1981 and Fast Times at Ridgemont High in 1982, which came out in August. Not sure how much the film cost, but it only made $5.8 million at the box office, so it wasn't a huge hit, and that's why there were no more sequels. So the cast and crew. Now, you heard a little bit about Bose Davidson, the director and writer of this movie. Very, very successful career. Started directing and writing in Israel before coming to the States to direct movies. 26 directing credits in all. 1982, The Last American Virgin was his first American film. He has a lot of Israeli films before that and after that. 1987, a movie called Dutch Retreat, and then this one you're really going to like, Chris. 1987, Going Bananas. Now, what would you think a movie called Going Bananas might be about?
I see a zoo setting, a zookeeper, an ape, and shenanigans.
You're right on some of those.
Okay.
It stars a man you're very familiar with, Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
If you want to hear a personal story about Chris's run-in with Dom DeLuise, I believe it's the Thrashin' episode.
No, that was the Call Me Tex one.
Maybe it's Lunchwagon. It's Lunchwagon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen to the Lunchwagon episode.
If you want to hear Chris's personal run-in with him insulting Dom DeLuise to his face.
Unknowingly.
So I wrote down the description of the movie for you, though, according to IMDb, that you're going to love.
Oh, good.
While on vacation in a fictitious African country, the young son of a U.S. senator, his guardian, and their guide must stop the corrupt local police chief and the shady owner of a local circus from capturing their new friend, a talking ape. Fire it up. Stay tuned for this episode.
Is it a way out?
It's a way out. Referring to an infamous movie description from a past episode. I couldn't even tell you what episode it was. Maybe Chesty Anderson?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
1988, a movie called Salsa, which I bet you can guess it was another one of those dance movies based off of the salsa. And 1995, the last movie he directed in America, Lunar Cop, which starred Michael Paré as a cop. Now, what do you think? Well, I want you to think, like, do you think it's a cop that comes from the moon or a cop that goes to the moon?
Releases the moon? I think it's the cop that stops and frisks astronauts before they suit up to go to the moon.
No, it's apparently a moon cop that comes down to Earth to police.
Why don't you just call it Moon Cop? That's way cooler. I want to wear a Moon Cop shirt.
Lunar Cop's not a bad name.
Moon Cop 2, Cop of Feel.
So he actually had much more success as a producer and writer. He has 50 writing credits, but he has 156 producing credits. Tons and tons and tons and tons of B movies, direct to DVD B movies in the late 90s and early 2000s. Pretty much, and I'm not even kidding, you should go look at it yourself. Every movie you've ever seen in Blockbuster that was like $5, he made it.
So these are the movies that you go to like Ralph's or Target, and they're like in the aisles while you check out.
Oh yeah, Mosquito Man, all sorts of things like that. Yeah, he made all of them. But he did much larger movies as well, and I got a few written down that you're going to be maybe surprised about, maybe not. 2006, he produced the movie The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage.
The bees, not the bees.
My favorite part's when he punches that lady in the face. 2008, he was the executive producer on Rambo 4, just called Rambo, one of our favorites.
Oh, I love that movie.
You didn't believe me when I told you a baby gets bayoneted in the beginning of that movie.
I did not.
Hot
I'm like,
damn, does it happen?
So I'm like, oh, it's probably off screen. Oh no, it happens.
2009, he executive produced the movie Bad Lieutenant, which was the remake or kind of like a sequel reimagining, again with Nicolas Cage. 2010, this is when he started executive producing Expendables, and he also executive produced Expendables 2 and 3. He was the executive producer on 2011's remake of Conan the Barbarian. 2013, executive produced Olympus Has Fallen. 2014, produced Legend of Hercules. 2016, he is producing The Expendables, which is the all-female version of The Expendables. And 2016, you're probably going to be real pissed off about this. He's producing a movie called Leatherface, which is about Leatherface as a teenager breaking out of a mental institution. Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Because that's what we need now is another fucking origin story.
Well, you can blame the man who directed and wrote this movie for that, Chris.
I will.
We won't go into the producers of this movie, Menahem Golan and Globus, because you can watch everything about them in a great documentary. It should still be available on Netflix, named Electric Boogaloo, which is named after Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo.
It's a great canon documentary.
Oh, amazing. If you want to learn everything and anything about Canon Films, they talk about a lot of the great movies they released, including this movie in that documentary. So it's a real good watch. So let's get in the cast. Lawrence Monoson, who plays Gary, or Monoson, 48 credits. This was his first movie. 1984, though, he went in to be Friday the 13th, the final chapter. He played the character Ted. He was in 1985's Mask, which, who is that, Eric Stoltz or somebody?
I think
who's
so.
like got the all fucked up face or something.
Yeah.
1988, Dangerous Love. He stars in this movie. You're going to like the description of it. Someone is videotaping and killing members of a video dating club.
That would probably be a blockbuster in today's standards.
Yeah, now it would be with like Tinder instead of video dating.
Yeah.
Tons of TV guest spots. Last movie I have was 2004, Starship Troopers 2. Other than that one. Diane Franklin, who plays Karen, 36 credits. Her first movie.
Yeah.
This movie. Then went on 1982, same year, to be in Amityville 2. 1985, Better Off Dead. She played Monique.
Oh, cool. Okay.
1986, a movie called TerraVision, which I'm debating whether or not to cover on this podcast. It's a real fun one.
Yeah.
It's, you know that John Ritter movie, Stay Tuned?
Yeah, I loved that movie
Well,
growing
just
up.
imagine it, but better.
Really? Yeah. Oh, we ran into that all the time as a kid. My dad hated that movie.
You bring it home and he's like, God damn it. Not again.
Well, to be honest, I was like really young. I was like in kindergarten, I think. How old were we when that movie came out? And we were written in. It was just...
I don't know.
loved it.
I think I'm one of the few people that own the DVD of that. I actually own it.
Yeah. Well, you're burning it for me after this.
Rest in peace, John Ritter. You were taken too soon.
Yes.
Too soon.
Yes.
But he did have that good cameo in Bride of Chucky, where he got killed by Chucky with all those nails in his face.
And he was in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where he plays a robot stepdad. And Buffy finds out he's like evil and starts beating him up, and his face falls apart, and he's like all robotic on one side of his face.
Probably trips over something. And he's done a lot of TV. Or I'm sorry, 1989, she was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as one of the princesses, and she does a lot of TV, and she's still working.
Oh, good for her.
Now here's another one. Steve Anton, who plays Rick, mostly acting, but he wrote a couple movies, including 1999's Gloria with Sharon Stone and 2010's Burlesque with Christina Aguilera and I think Cher. He also directed that movie. So he had 22 acting credits. His first movie, Last American Virgin. 1983 was in the movie Sweet 16. 1985 was in The Goonies. He did more movies and TV, quit acting in the late 90s to go ahead and write and direct. Joe Rubbo, or Rubo. It's R-U-B-B-O. What do you think, Rubbo?
Rebo.
Who plays David. Only 3 credits, actually. This was his first movie. Then 1982, he was in the movie The World According to Garp. And 1985, a movie called Hot Chili. And that was it. Some other people in this cast went on to do other things, but in our effort to shorten the length of these episodes, I have taken them out of the notes.
Yeah, it's kind of a judgment call. Is it worth your time?
Yeah, let us know.
Hashtag, is it a way out?
I would love that. I want every movie description to just end with, is it a way out? Question mark. We got to watch that movie at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already sold itself. So we start this movie and we see Gary, the pizza delivery boy, packing up his pink car for a delivery. The boss is, breaking his balls. Says something about if you spent more time in school and not hanging out with broads in my car, something like that.
You ought to spend more time in school instead of cruising around with broads in my car. Then you'd learn how to read.
Hey, company car, you use it to your advantage.
But one thing I noticed is he keeps handing him case and case of beer. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, this kid's not 18, can't handle alcohol. That's for damn sure. Number 2, you cannot just go deliver beer with a pizza.
No.
I used to work as a pizza delivery boy in high school, and let me tell you, one thing you definitely can't do is deliver alcohol.
Yeah, and that's something we saw in a movie we covered before, Beach Girls.
You're right. When they call, hello, grocery store man.
Hello, pizza man.
Do you think Gary ever made a delivery over to the old Beach Girl's house? Uncle Carl's estate,
That would have been, I have a theory for you. Before I forget, I might cut this part out, but spoiler alert, but that's where he was driving at the end of the movie.
No, you should just add that at the end. For sure.
Right.
So he's driving, he speeds off, and we see more shots of his car. So, Gary, this whole movie drives around this pink car that says the name of the pizza place, and, some giant...
The pink pizza.
It's called the Pink Pizza?
Yeah. I think that's what they're trying to slide in some innuendo there. Pizza,
Well,
pie.
Believe it or not,
pie.
I don't know if anybody knows about this because you're probably not from LA or around this area, but there is a chain called Pink Taco around here, which is Jesus Christ, man. I mean, for real?
Women love us. I doubt that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm sure all the girls are like, let's go eat at Pink Taco. No. So you notice that he's driving around with that pink car, the Pink Pizza, or whatever it's called. Oh, boy, great innuendo.
Yeah.
With that giant
pie. It'll kill.
He's got this giant cartoon plastic character on the top of this car, just a 5-foot tall lawn gnome on top of the thing.
Yeah.
I really feel like this was a missed opportunity because in Home Alone how everybody always pulls up to that house and knocks over the statue.
Yeah.
He should have just been going through bridges and this thing falling off all the time. Such a missed opportunity.
It's I was waiting for some gag with it, and it never happened. It's so useless. Or other than to paint the kid, he's such a dork because he drives around in his work car. Well, no, it's just a missed opportunity.
What boss would just give you this car for all time?
Thank you.
It reminds me of Good Burger when Kel drives around in that burger mobile or something. You don't remember that?
I do remember the film, just not that part well enough.
Okay, so we go to the ice cream place, which is one of the 5 locations in this movie. All the kids, they hang out at this ice cream and hot dog place. And so Gary pulls up, he's, popping his collar and walking in, got his greased up look going, real 1982. He walks inside and then immediately just starts staring hardcore at this girl at the counter. Gary always does this thing where he just has his mouth open like he's catching flies, you know? And so he just kind of walks up there. He's like, oh. And she just kind of looks at him like, oh, yeah, hello. And then shrugs it off and kind of walks away.
Yeah, very politely.
She just keeps walking and he keeps staring. And he just kind of looks at the guy behind the counter. He's like, who's that girl? He's like, I don't know, never seen her, man. So he goes over, sits at the table with his two friends, Rick and David, and whenever they're together, here come the boys.
Here come the boys, indeed.
These three are inseparable, best friends. So he sits down, joins them, and then Rick and David are talking about some girls sitting over at this booth. And Gary's like all upset about it. He's like, "Well, what do you want to talk to these girls? They look like space aliens. Look like normal girls to me." I'm not sure what he's doing.
His standards. We'll learn.
They start going on about how they are or aren't virgins. And then David, who is the portly one of the group, says, quote, "That redhead can't be a virgin. Look at the way she's sucking on that straw." And I wrote, "But she's not a redhead, though."
No,
So
she's not.
I rewound it a couple times, and I'm like, no, he said redhead.
Yeah, because I'm like, I thought I missed the scene. Like, would he skip over a part?
Do you think they just like had that in the script and they just left it in and totally forgot to take it out?
Yeah, that's how we memorized it. Yeah, I think so.
Bullshit. Will you look at them? They're virgins.
They're not. I can tell by the way they walk, right, Rick?
That brunette ain't no virgin. Look at the way she's sucking on that straw. I'm wasting my time here. Tell me how. Hey, cool it for a second, Gary. This could be interesting.
So Gary tries to leave, but Rick pulls him back to the table. And then he tells David, "Hey, go over and invite those girls over here." David like gets up and he puts on his Wayfarers and walks over and somehow convinces these girls to come over to their table. I don't know how, because David has absolutely no charm to him.
No, he's wearing like a yellow vest.
And by the way, these guys kind of remind me a lot of the characters from another movie we covered, My Tutor.
Yes,
they remind
thank
me
you.
a lot
Thank
of
you.
Crispin Glover and his brother.
Yeah.
Like a lot. So the guys tell them they're having, like, so these girls come over and they're like, "Hey, we're having this party. You want to come over?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know. Are there going to be drugs?" And David's just like, "Oh, yeah, we got them all. We got poppers and downers and uppers and sideways." And, and one of the girls, they're like, "But you got any Coke?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, who doesn't, 1982, Yeah, come on over." And they say like, "Okay, as long as you get us home by 11:45. And they all pile into Gary's Pizza Mobile and "Are you ready for the sex, girls?" That song starts playing. We go to Gary's house. It's dark. They come inside. They turn on the lights. Nobody's there. And basically all the girls are like, "Oh, where's the party?" They pull the old bait and switch, Yep.
It's just them like, "Here come the boys.
Boys will be boys." So they're like, no, they're on their way. Here, why not put on some music? Hey, why don't you sit down, huh? Loosen that bra. Rick and David start dancing with two of the girls, and then they like try to get Gary to dance with homely looking one, I guess you would say.
Yeah, to be nice, yes.
Yeah, she's just like, they obviously made her to be like the dorky one because she's wearing these giant glasses and she's just complaining all the time.
Yeah, that's one thing they try and do in this film is to make them somewhat unappealing or unattractive. They just say, "Hey, throw glasses on them."
You know what doesn't make much sense to me, though, is that they should have switched the characters of Gary and David.
Yeah.
I think that David should have been cast as Gary.
Yeah.
Because it would have made more sense.
It would have.
Like, he's like kind of the overweight guy and he would be made fun of. But like, why is Gary such a dork compared to Rick? I mean,
No
is he
idea.
really that much different than him?
Maybe they did test audiences and they said, "Oh, we can't find a fat guy. We can't get behind that. He's fat."
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Something like that.
I mean, the only thing weird about Gary at this point is he just can't close that fucking mouth.
No.
He's catching flies with this fucking thing.
Well, maybe they were trying to, that character they were trying to actually model after the writer and director of it.
Oh, maybe.
For the
You
continuity's
think
sake.
he couldn't shut his mouth either? He's a real mouth breather. All he does is walk around with that goddamn mouth open. I swear to God, Chris, if you look at every shot in this movie, I don't think it's ever closed.
I think you're right.
He's
Yeah.
always like got his just kind of his relaxed face is his mouth open, just like, hey.
Vietnamese food.
It's too bad he couldn't have met Jeannie from the cheerleaders. Her and Gary would
Oh,
have
God.
hit it off real well, I
Yeah.
think.
He would have hit the ceiling.
So they're all dancing around, and basically Gary goes and sits next to this homely girl on the couch, and he's being courteous, asks her if she wants to dance. She says she, quote, doesn't care. And he's like, "Well, you don't care no, or you don't care yes." And she's like, "I don't care." And he's like, "All right, I guess we'll dance then." And they get up and they dance. He starts asking her questions, and she just keeps going, "I don't care." It's like, well, you're real friendly.
Yeah, real charmer.
And so Gary gets fed up and he goes, well, what do you care about? And she goes, and I quote, don't start that small talk with me. It's not going to matter anyways. You're not going to get anything from me.
Oh, God.
So he just walks away. He's like, well, guess no point in continuing to dance with this girl.
What do you think about this song?
I really don't care.
What do you care about?
Listen, don't start that small talk with me. It's not gonna help you anyway. You're not gonna get anything from me.
Listen, I didn't...
I really don't care.
But they all like stop dancing and like he's gonna go flip that record, and then the homely girl goes like, well, what about the drugs? You know, because she's a real cokehead, this one. And they're like, oh yeah, no, they're in the kitchen, and so they go into the kitchen, and then they're like, so I mean, we don't have any drugs, what are we gonna do? We promised them drugs, Gary, what are we gonna do? We're in too deep.
Like, I would have naturally assumed they would have gone to the medicine cabinet, found some pills, and like scratched off some letters, like actually like scraped the word LSD on one of the pills, like to be funny.
Yeah, like get an Advil or get something, you know, like an aspirin, and just be like, oh yeah, it's a new one, you know.
Like scratch off the A and the S. Yeah, it's a Purine tablet. It'll knock your fucking socks off.
What do they do, Chris?
Oh, well, they decided to get some Sweet and Low.
Yeah.
And they're going to put Sweet and Low in rails, frosty rails.
So they get this like mirror, which to me is like, well, I guess this is a Coke mirror, because what the fuck else would this mirror be used for? It's like a double-sided hand mirror, you know?
Serve coffee, maybe. Who knows? Tea.
Serves tea on a mirror, Chris, please. Maybe Gary's parents are hitting rails now and again.
Yeah.
So they walk out of the kitchen, and David's got the plate of it, and they're like, oh, what do you got for us? And he's like, fresh from Peru.
Like it's coffee. Like it's freshly ground, straight off the mule's back.
One hit and you'll be flying. And so all the girls just sit there and hit rails of Coke. And the girl who doesn't care about anything just sits there and just starts sniffing line after line after line. And like, if this was Coke,
oh, she'd be dead.
she fucking would.
End of movie. Ambulance
like
pulling
taking
up.
a Scarface pile of Coke up her nose. She's just like, yeah.
Oh, Gary would have been dead. Gary would have been on his back, and she would have been on top of him. And this were real Coke.
There's a scene where he's like, help me, get her off. So... And yeah, and then she does all these rails, and then she looks up and she goes, it's the best Colombian I've ever had. All these girls, they're like, oh yeah, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. It's like, I guess they've definitely never done cocaine before. No. I've personally never done cocaine before, but I imagine I'd probably be able to tell the difference between cocaine and Sweet and Low.
I've been around enough to tell you, yeah.
So David, he takes this... Okay, so then we cut to like David going into a bedroom, the bigger guy, right?
Yeah.
He goes in the bedroom and he starts like testing the bed out. Like he's like, all right, come on, it's bouncing good. And then he pulls the old amazing line as he like walks back in the living room and goes, hey, I want to show you something in here, huh? And she's like, oh, what do you want to show me?
Oh, I want to talk to you about something.
Yeah, oh, hey, Brenda, I got to talk to you about something for a second. Come on in.
Oh, well, remember he unscrews the lights, the bulbs from the sockets?
Yeah, he's testing out the bed and he's like, oh, yeah, shit, no light.
Yeah. So this, you know who I think this character is? He's going to be the janitor from Cheerleaders.
Oh, for sure. I can see that for sure. So somehow this works. And she's so clueless. She's like, oh, yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so then we cut back into the main room, and Rick is just making out like hardcore with his girl on the couch, and they're like pushing into the girl who doesn't care about anything.
She's like, excuse me.
And she's all in the corner of the couch. She's like, ugh. And then eventually they go off to their own room, and they leave Gary and this girl alone, and he like shuts off the lights. He's like, you two have fun. But it's kind of funny because they're just sitting there in the dark, all awkward. And Gary's just, he cannot get rid of this bowl of chips.
Yeah.
He's been holding it for a good 10 minutes. Like, I don't know what to do. Rick is like getting freaking down in a bedroom with this one girl. They're all getting naked and everything.
Yeah.
And he's just going to town. He certainly isn't the last American virgin, that's for damn sure.
Eager Beaver! His face looks like a younger, more chiseled Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
And he wastes no time. I mean, he gets this girl in this bedroom. He's like, all right, let's go.
He's even got that like bad boy tattoo on his arm, too. Whatever that is.
Yeah, that was kind of weird because it's like, well, this kid's definitely not in high school because he's got his little tattoo going on.
Yeah.
Unless it was like one of those temporary ones. Hey, I'm going to look like a bad boy.
Maybe.
So we go back into the living room and Gary's like sitting there slowly trying to put his arm around this girl, like inch by inch. And then we go, David is with that girl in his room and he's trying to kiss her and she's like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. In fact, why don't you just go out on that patio and
Count to 100.
Count to 100, and when you count, come back in and I'll be naked, and then we'll have a great night. And he's like, oh boy.
If you don't see this guy coming from a mile away, but it's a great payoff. Great payoff.
So he goes outside and he gets undressed and he sits there and he starts counting. And then we come back to the living room and like somehow Gary has now gotten this girl's shirt off, which is and she's just sitting there eating chips, you know?
Like
just
kind of like trying to be oblivious to it, but just like, all right, if I must.
Yeah. Like she doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like this girl is such a nihilist that she's just like, yeah, whatever. I really don't care. I don't care about you. I don't care about this house. I don't care about these chips. I don't care about anything. Give me the drugs. So he's like trying to get her bra off, but he can't. And then like he reaches for a pair of scissors next to the end table. And then he grabs the pair of scissors. He's gonna cut and the door opens.
Mm-hmm. Mom and Dad are home.
Uh-oh. So then as soon as his parents walk into the room, they turn on the light and Gary just kind of pops up. He's like, oh shit. Hey, Mom and Dad. And then there's this girl without her shirt on.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'd like you to meet my parents.
And I love that the chips are like stuck to her chest too. Look closely. I couldn't tell what they were at first. I'm like, oh, they're trying to make her like real slovenly.
Just like she doesn't care about anything so much that she's just gonna get crumbs all over herself and just be like, fuck it.
Yeah. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, chips on me.
And then if it couldn't get any worse, for some reason the girl that Rick was in that bedroom with comes running in naked into the room, just like hey. And then Rick follows in and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Full on orgy mode.
And then Gary's mom and dad are like, Gary, and then all of a sudden the blonde girl from the bedroom, she comes out topless. And it's like whatever song starts up. Oh God, Mad Dash, we gotta run.
Yeah. Shake it up.
I think it is Shake It Up.
Probably. They play like several times in this film. I mean, thank God it wasn't like Mental Hopscotch, like Lunch Wagon. Like they had one song.
They had like 20 songs in
thank
this movie.
God.
All the big hits of 1982, though, for sure. They paid probably more for royalties in music than they did for anything else in this movie. So they all go running out to the car, and then all of a sudden they go, wait, where's David? Cut to, so like Gary's mom is just like, oh, I gotta lay down. And she like gets in the bed, and the dad comes in, and he's like, are you okay, honey? I'll get you some water. So she's just sitting there in the bed like, oh, okay, I'll just lay down and sleep it off. And then all of a sudden,
we see a silhouette of a gentleman.
Oh yeah, while they're walking in, you still see his silhouette the whole time.
Which is like the greatest framed like build up and payoff ever in these movies.
Like him pitching a tent in the background.
Yeah, like it's Alfred Hitchcock or something.
Alfred Hitchcock with a boner.
Yeah. Alfred Pitchcock.
And of course, when she lays down, 99, 100. And so he like comes into the room and he sees this. So like she's laid down to the side where you can't see who it is, and David gets in the bed and he starts like going right for the goods, you know? And the mom's like, oh my God. And he turns around, he's like, oh, Mrs. So-and-so. And she slaps him. And then the dad comes in and he's like, oh, Mr. So-and-so, I'm sorry.
She told me to come in.
And then they both start beating him up. And then they chase him on out and they all drive away in the pink car. But here's the thing. Do you think David's allowed back at that house again?
I would say no.
All right. So they all drive off. We go to the school. And this is where we get another song that's going to play quite a bit. Devo's Whip It is used quite a bit in this movie. So they're like in gym class, I guess. But they're like literally in gym class because for some reason they're like jumping over a pommel horse, and I'm like, they didn't have that in my high school.
I didn't do that.
Not in this America. I think it's like only set up because like everybody's jumping over the pommel horse except David can't make it over, and he just sits on it.
It's the big ha-ha moment. All right, load the pommel horse in the frame, please. David, you're looking great.
Can you imagine, like, what do those American boys do in school? I don't know, pommel horse. I mean, what is this?
Hey, maybe in Israel.
That's what I'm thinking. It's got to be like something like, oh yeah, we do gym over there. Gym means gym, gymnastics.
Yeah, we do some Krav Maga, a little pommel horse.
Did you ever do any sort of gymnastics in high school?
No.
Closest we ever got was like running a mile. I mean, that's the closest you ever got to any sort of gymnastics.
Yeah.
So we go into the locker room, which is okay. So at first, one of the guys, this nerdy guy, Victor, right?
Yeah.
He's like looking through this peephole, and it's kind of funny because Porky's just came out the year before. He's pulling a real Porky's here. He's got a peephole to the girls' shower. And all the guys come in, and I thought they were all going to be like, oh, what you looking at? They're like, oh, you fucking peeping Tom. What are you doing over there? And like,
please.
And he's like, I wasn't looking at nothing. And then all of a sudden they get in some argument or something. And he's like, I got a bigger dick than all of you. And they're just like in the most bizarre scene ever.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like this.
Okay. Explain to me what we cut to, Chris.
Literally, so you have a quote unquote pissing contest or a dick measuring contest. This is a literal dick measuring contest. These boys are now in line with raging single file line. With erections, like it's the army checkup. Yeah. Like they're getting their shot.
And we keep like dolly past erection after erection in these like tighty whitey underwears. Like every single guy's got like.
Like, here's my question. What were they thinking of or looking at to get aroused for this?
I don't know.
Because you're in line looking at the back of another guy. I mean, you use your imagination, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's high school.
Yeah, raging hormones.
The no reason boners. They
pop up on you.
You brush your pants wrong, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't get called up to the front of the class. I had a good story about that. One of my friends... once in high school, we were in graphic arts, like screen printing class, right? And we're in class, and we had this thing called reading period where you'd like read for 15 minutes in your homeroom. And so we're all just reading. And then after the reading's done, our teacher's like, all right, everybody go get your screens and everything. And so everybody gets up except my friend. And like the teacher just looks over him and he just starts screaming. He's like, hey, come over here. Get over here. And he's just like, oh, no, need a couple minutes. And he just starts screaming at him. He's like, get your ass over here. And he's like, all right, I'm good. Gets up. And he tells me, he was like, the old NRB. There's no reason boners. They hit you at the worst time, don't they? You never had that? Like when you're like,
nope.
Some teacher's like, can you come up to the front of the class? And you're like, don't want to. Never in your life did you get a boner before the bell rang and you're like, how am I going to get out of this one? How am I going to get out of this one? It never happened to you in your whole life?
That's me to a kid I knew in gym class. It was rainy day, indoor gym day. And,
Jesus.
And gym shorts, they don't leave a lot to the imagination in these situations. So it's like, I'm in the circle, we're all talking, and the girls are like playing truth or dare with the guys. And I guess the kids, this kid heard a little too much truth. And so,
heard a little too much truth, a little too much dare.
Yeah. So the bell rings, and everyone gets up, and he like pretends like he's struggling to get up. Like all of a sudden he has a hernia in his back. Like, like all of a sudden he has to lean forward, and like this, like something gets his attention. Like he sees everyone not looking, so he kind of stands up and he has to like readjust himself. I'm like, I know what's going on here. I know exactly what's going on. And so he's walking all the way to the boys' locker room.
Just walking bow-legged.
Yeah, he's walking like hunched over, like he's got his stomach ache, and extending the the waistband of his gym shorts all the way out forward. Like
I might throw up,
Yeah, like looking like, oh, what's going on down there? Like, so I'm like, come on, man, come on. And that guy was me.
It was not. Chris, it's the worst way possible. That's what.
Hey, you put yourself in that situation in those shorts, surrounded by everybody.
Every person in the whole school is just staring, like, going, like, what the fuck is Chris doing?
Yeah.
Like how you go, that person was me. Oh, it happens all the time. You ever seen Chris play a show and he's hunched over, pulling at his pants? You know what's going on?
Yeah, why is the guitar 6 inches in front of him?
Oh boy.
So yeah, it was hard to master, but you know, poor choice of words there. But it was.
What's the hashtag for this one gonna be? Hashtag gym shorts. So, you know, we're sitting here, we're all in line. Everybody's single file in line, and like Gary and David are sitting at the edge at like on a bench, right? And each guy comes up one by one and pulls out their dick, and they get a ruler, and David's like writing this down for documentation. Like, all right, 3 inches, all right, 5 inches, and like, you know, their friend Rick comes up and they're like, and then all of a sudden the nerd guy, the guy looking through the peephole, he comes up and he just flops it out, and David's like, oh my God, it's alive. And Gary pulls out the ruler and he's like, 9 inches. And Victor goes, fuck you, 9.5. And he says something like, well, I'm not counting your balls or something like that. And he's like, it's 9.5. I should know. I measure. It's mine. And he's like, all right, write it down. He wins. And for some reason, if you win, you just get a bucket of water dumped on you.
I didn't understand that.
And I wrote, how much time do they have in this gym class to just sit around and measure each other's dicks? Because in my school, you'd have about 5 minutes to get changed.
Yeah, maybe this was the last
half hour.
Maybe this was the last class of the day. Was it?
I mean, they got like a whole fucking pie chart going on this thing, you know, like a fucking graph going on here.
They got the best and brightest minds going on.
So we go to lunch. They're eating lunch outside. And of course, you know, we got to cement the fact that David's a little bit bigger than everybody else. So he's like sitting there at the lunch window, piling like 5 burgers onto his tray.
Yeah.
And it's like, this kid, gonna be the first kid at like 18 to die of a coronary, you know? This guy's just sitting there just...
It's like, keep it coming.
Burger after burger after burger. And so he's sitting down, and then he sits down next to Gary and Rick, and Gary, he's pulling that old Doug Funny act, is what I'd like to say. This kid reminds me of the cartoon Doug, if you've ever seen that.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like obsessed with this girl, Patty Mayonnaise, you know?
Yeah.
And I always wondered, like, I thought if they were ever going to continue Doug as like an adult... I would think like that eventually he was gonna definitely like trying to find a place to hide Patty's body after he eventually killed her and removed her head and placed it on his mantle.
Wore her skin.
So he's just sitting there like staring again at Karen. And then David tells him her name, and Gary's like, oh, can you find out where she lives? And he's like, oh, I guess so.
Everything has a price though.
Cut to Gary's like driving, gets a Mario Speedwagon coming on. He creepily pulls up to Karen's house, and he's like making sure nobody's around, and he like lets out all the air in her tire of her moped. God. It's yeah. And then he like parks his pizza car. So he like, okay, he lets all this air out of the tire, and then he like runs back in his car, and he like backs up, and he's like, she'll be out soon. Like a real Bobby move, this guy. You know? Just wait outside her house, and she'll come out eventually, right?
Yeah, this is his Sally Johnson.
So she comes out, and she like rolls her moped in the street, and he's like, oh, something wrong? She's like, yeah, I don't know, what's up? And he's like, oh, let me see if I can help you. Oh, it looks like you got a flat. Why don't you get in my car? And I'll give you a ride. And then they go to school. He gives her a ride. So she gets in the car, and I wrote, she agrees to this ride. Will it be her last ride ever? Let's find out. We don't know yet. So he keeps offering her food.
Yeah.
Hey, you want some pizza? You want a meatball sandwich? Meatball sandwich, right? And she's just like, what? And I'm like, what the fuck? Does this guy like just keep old meatball sandwiches in the back of this pizza truck? Like just his emergency meatball sub, you know?
Yeah.
Ready to go?
It's in the glove box. It's been there for weeks.
And he just won't stop smiling at her all creepily and staring at her. It's almost like you want her to be like, Gary, eyes on the road, you know? They got up to the school, and she like gets out of her car, and she gets out of his car like she couldn't get out fast enough.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, thank you. Goodbye. Hopefully I never see you again. And then he's just like, Karen?
Well, remember he couldn't hear her pronounce her name.
Offer you some pizza?
No, thank you.
How about a big meatball sandwich?
No, thanks. I just had breakfast.
What's your name?
Karen?
Sharon?
Karen!
Marion?
Karen with a K.
Oh, Karen. Why didn't you say so?
I just did.
This guy, man. So they're in that parking lot, and he just like won't let her leave. He's like, Karen? She's like, yeah, Gary, what? Well, what are you doing tonight? She's like, I'm a little busy. And he's like, oh yeah. Well, do you want to do something maybe another night? She's like, oh yeah, maybe we'll see. Gary, at this point, the polite thing is just she's not interested.
Yeah, admit defeat. It's okay. Hang your head up high.
You gave it a shot, Gary. Yeah. You approached her. You had the courage. You asked her out. She said no. This is where this should have ended.
Noble enough, even though by the means you achieve this, not so noble.
Yeah. Definitely not noble. Definitely not. Maybe a crime in some countries. So he just won't let that go. And he's like, Karen? She's like, yes, Gary.
Karen, hold on a second. I wanted to ask what you were doing tonight.
I'm afraid I'm busy.
Oh, it's too bad. See, because I know about this really great happening party tonight.
Sorry. There's always next time. Thanks again, Gary.
Karen, let me ask you something straight out.
Go ahead.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
Well,
Thanks again, Gary.
No, I don't. And he smiles. He's like, I'm in. This is like the Dumb and Dumber scene when he's like, so you're saying
there's a chance.
So we go to this party, very, very 80s party.
It's like the quintessential 80s party.
I have just never seen so much neon and pastel in my life, and there's like streamers. And
there's a guy with a Devo hat.
There's balloons in the pool, everybody's wearing pop collars and
oh god, like Devo gave them that hat to use in the movie, like, oh please use, please. The guy's even wearing the shirt.
Oh, he
from
is?
The cover of the album. Yeah, it's the blue one.
What if it's just Mark Mothersbaugh just sitting there like
that'd be so cool.
So, there's all these kids dancing, smoking pot, very 80s party. Rick and Karen are dancing there. And Gary walks in to see that, and oh boy, doesn't like it. And so he's like standing next to David, and he's like, what's this going on here? What the fuck? What's Rick doing? And he's like, I don't know, man. He's dancing with this girl.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, sorry, Gary. I didn't know you liked her. Maybe he'll give you a sloppy seconds, huh?
That kind of sets him off.
Oh, yeah.
This is a man's descent into, I would say, near homicidal, near...
Yeah. I wonder where Gary's going to end up at some point.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying the House of Beach Girls, but at the end of this movie, but...
So Rick comes over with Karen, and he's like, oh, hey, I wanted you to meet my friends. Hey, David and Gary, this is the love of my life, Karen. And Karen's like, oh, hey, Gary. And Rick's like, oh, you two know each other, huh? And she's like, oh, yeah, he's a nice guy. He gave me a ride and everything. And she goes, oh, hey, Gary, here's my friend, Rose. And this girl, have you ever seen this movie? She looks like some girl out of that Disney Channel movie, Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, to me. This girl has got like the pigtails in the air, like so many hard edges on this clothing, like never seen so many triangles in my life.
Like a live action Gem of the Holograms character come to life.
Yeah. And she walks over and she's all interested in Gary, and he's not interested in her, of course. He's only got his eyes set on Karen. And so like Karen and Rick go back to dancing, and Gary goes back to staring, just sitting there with his mouth open. I would have loved it at one point if somebody was just trying to throw things in his mouth,
like M&Ms.
Or David maybe just walks up and just pushes his jaw up at one point. He's like, Gary, you're drooling. So then Rose convinces Gary to dance, but he just doesn't want to, and while they're dancing, he just sits there and still stares at Karen while downing this bottle of Jack Daniels. He's in his slow descent at this point.
And we've all seen this guy at parties before. This is the guy that probably either came on his own or came with friends, and his friends ditched him for rightful reasons.
It's like, this guy, man, it's all, okay, Gary, she's not interested.
Yeah.
Leave it be.
Yeah.
So he's watching him as Rick and Karen just start making out. Gary's just staring. And then I wrote in my notes at this point, I think Gary might end up with Karen's head on top of that pizza mobile by the end of this movie. Not sure. So Karen goes off and Gary pursues her. She's going to the bathroom. I wrote, I'm assuming to drug and kill. We'll see. He follows her into that bathroom and he's just like sitting there downing his bottle of Jack Daniels and he's being all creepy to her. So she's like just trying to brush her hair and Gary's like, hey, Karen, hey, meatball sub, right? Am I right? And she's just like, oh, yeah, that's nice, Gary. Boy, this is really going to be uncomfortable that the guy I like is your friend. Oh, boy. Thought I got rid of you this morning.
You know, she had like the biggest heart attack when she saw him introduced as one of the friends.
Had it, right?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like, oh, no.
Because
she kept her cool, but she was
Yeah.
like, oh, boy. So then Rick comes into the bathroom because I'm sure he was like, where is Gary going? And he takes her away and Gary's just like sitting there down in his bottle of Jack on the counter and Rick just kind of gives him a little pat on the cheek like, don't drink it too hard, boy. You look like you've had enough, you know? Calm down, Gary. You're embarrassing me. You're fucking embarrassing me. So Gary comes back to the party and he's all like fucking piss drunk now and he's just sitting there like downing his bottle, just still staring at Rick and Karen. And I'm like, just let it go, dude. Just let it go. And he like drunkenly stumbles into the room and like breaks up all these people dancing and stumbles into them before David eventually catches him and he's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I think like David's like trying to throw him in the pool, but somehow David gets thrown in the pool or something. So then we cut to like outside this party, right? And Gary's just like super drunk.
And what's the best thing you can do for a friend that's drunk? Walk them to their car to drive themselves home.
So David goes, you sure you don't want me to drive you home, Gary? And he goes like, oh, my boss will kill me if you get the seats wet. It's like, Gary, I think he's going to kill you if you kill yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, well, if you don't kill yourself first.
Yeah.
Because he is like so drunk, I don't even think he could like feasibly put the keys in the ignition.
He
I mean,
doesn't know
this
his
guy
left
is-
from his right. I mean, I'm hoping this car's a stick shift because he's not getting into first gear.
But you're right. Like David just goes like, all right, see you in the morning. Oh, but there's that great part. So Gary comes home and his parents are having like some sort of like dinner party.
Yeah.
And all these people are in the living room, you know, and like there's this really proper lady. That's what I just wrote her name as, proper lady.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, must be your son. He looks so big. And he's like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, yes. Gary, say hi to Miss So-and-so. And he just like belches at her.
Yeah. And then he starts kind of putting the moves on her, too.
Okay, so he burps. And then she goes, well, this young man needs a long, cold shower. And he goes, oh, yeah? Only if you join me, baby. Yeah.
What this young man needs is a long, cold shower.
Oh, yeah? Only if you join me, baby. Because I know what you need. Good night, Gary.
And his mom's like, oh, Gary, please get out of here. You're ruining this party as well. And she like gives him a tray of things to carry out, like these glasses. Like, Gary, could you just put this in the kitchen and go?
But just, why would you give... Do they not know he's drunk?
I think they do. They're just like, please
Are
leave,
you
Gary.
you're going to give him the fragile glasses and...
Anything to get him. Well, Chris, come on. We got to set up this gag.
Yeah.
And so like he just starts singing at this lady.
Yeah.
And then he like runs into the wall and all the glasses fall everywhere. His mom's like, we'll clean it up in the morning.
Yeah.
Cut to school. So we're in this geometry class. Gary's just sitting there daydreaming, writing Karen's name over and over and over on a piece of paper. And I'm like, he just must be dreaming about where he's eventually going to hide that body, you know?
Yeah.
The teacher calls on him to answer a question. He doesn't know. And then Mr. Dicko over here is like giving him all this bad information. And then he's just Saved by the Bell. That's the end of that scene. Pizza car. Gary pulls up to an apartment complex for a delivery for this movie. Here come the boys. Yeah. So this like lady invites him in, right?
Oh boy.
And she's like got this real thick accent. She talks like Charo. She like kind of looks like Charo and talks like her. And she's just like, oh, no, come inside, come inside.
Carmela is pleased to see such a beautiful delivery.
you know, she's all hitting on him real hardcore, and he's like, oh, where do you want this stuff? And she's like, oh, put the beer in the fridge. And he like drops some jar of honey on the ground or something. And
Oh, it's marmalade.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she like runs her finger in it, and she's like trying to feed it to him, and he's
Yeah.
just like, no, that's fine. And she's like, oh, it's so good, so good. And then like Gary freaks out, and he's like, oh, I gotta go. And he gets like paged by the pizza place or something. He's
Yeah.
gotta run out. We think maybe that'll be the last we see of
no,
that lady.
we're gonna spread. He's a good enough friend to spread the wealth.
This part's pretty funny though. So it cuts to later, and like the music is playing, and you just see this shot of him driving and David and Rick in the car, and he's just like explaining in detail, like, you wouldn't fucking believe it. Like, this is a real like Bobby and DeVito situation for the band. He's like, Bobby, you wouldn't fucking believe it. We gotta go back to this girl's house. So all of them show up with more pizzas. And they like knock on the door, and like each one of them's holding a pizza box now. And she answers, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah."
What am I doing? Because I thought they were going to pull the dick in a box gag, guaranteed.
And like Rick's just holding it next to his crotch. Yeah.
Well, Bobby and DeVito would have done that.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's no pizza in that box. Come on.
Bobby, extra salami. Remember, tell her she ordered it.
So she answers the door, brings them all in, and they're like all sitting on the couch. And David at one point goes, "Are you sure this isn't going to cost us?" And I was like, maybe she is a hooker.
Yeah.
And basically, she like pours them all drinks, and then she like puts on music and starts dancing, and like one by one takes these boys into her bedroom. Well, like they're all afraid to go except for Rick.
Yeah.
And like Rick goes in there, and like
Oh, just head first.
David and Gary are looking through this keyhole at him having sex with this woman.
Well, he tells them both to take their clothes off, like to get ready. Like,
he's like, "Get ready, I'll go first. I'll warm her up."
yeah.
And so like they're sitting there staring at him having sex with this lady. Then like he comes out and he's like, "All right, who's next?" And David and Gary are so nervous they can't decide who's going next. And eventually Rick just pushes David in the room, and he's like just so sweaty, this poor kid. And he's just got his boxers on, and he's like creeping towards the bed, you know, and she's
Yeah.
like, come over, take off her pants. And he's like, "Ooh, okay. Head first."
Yep.
Dive right in.
Yeah.
And then like Gary's like, "All right, I think I can do this. And then all of a sudden,
Every time we see this gentleman strolling down the street with this USN bag over his shoulder, like the most like inexpensive prop they could find. Like, oh, we'll make this guy look like he's military or a seaman of sorts, and just sling it over his shoulder and give him like the most ridiculous wardrobe possible.
but we can't afford a uniform.
Yeah.
But we can afford this like little hat and
Dude,
this duffel bag.
He looks like a gardener going up there.
I didn't know he was a sailor at
Oh
first.
yeah. He's like some serviceman. He's like, oh yeah, he's come from all the way from so and he's back.
Yeah, so he knocks on the door,
Yeah.
and all the guys are trying to get their clothes on as fast as possible. Rick and Gary are like getting dressed. David's still in the bedroom, and she's like, "Oh, these are the neighbor boys. They just came over I'm helping them with their Spanish lessons." And then all of a sudden, David walks out of that bedroom,
Oh yeah.
and he goes,
What a nympho.
and then it's like, and the music swells, and he's like, you know, we get a little Benny
Shake it
Hill.
up.
We get a little Benny Hill chase
Yeah.
scene, you know? Yeah, shake it up, boop, boop, boop. Ooh, and then shoes are flying everywhere, and David's running out in his underwear, and they
Yeah.
all speed off. Here come the boys, you know? So then we go back to some place. It's just outside.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the ice cream place, actually. And like Gary meets Rick in front of it, and he says something about how he couldn't get the pizza car that night. And Rick's all pissed. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about? I'm gonna go fuck that Karen girl tonight." Because Rick's like become the Andrew Dice Clay of this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's like, "Oh, fuck this girl, fuck that girl. I'm just fuck anything that moves."
Fucking unbelievable.
And he's like, "Come on, Gary, I need your car. I need to get busy, you know? I need to fuck that girl you like." And he's like going on about how like she's bringing her friend, and I need you to like, you know, take a bullet for me. And I know you don't like her, Gary, but please, I need to get it in. God damn it, do I need to get it in? These guys, man. So then, like, the nerdy Mr. Big Dick Victor pulls up in this convertible, and they, like, somehow promise him, they're like, oh, Victor, we got to go meet these 3 blondes, and we're going to bring them back, and trust me, there'll be one for you. Can we just borrow your car? Here, you go buy us all Cokes, and we'll go pick them up. And he's like, oh, yeah, sounds great. And then I wrote, I guess they just steal this guy's car.
Steal Victor's car.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the fuck wagon.
So we go to the car. Gary and Rick go and they pick up Karen and her friend Rose, and they go for a night out on the beach. A little beach makeout session, a little REO Speedwagon, you know? nothing like getting in the mood to the old REO.
REN.
And like every time they play a song, it's so loud over the soundtrack. They were just expecting people to be like rocking out in the theater, you know?
Oh, God.
Bringing out their fucking lighters for this scene.
Go, ow! Like waving their hands.
Oh, for sure.
Hooting and hollering.
So we go to the beach. This part is so good, though. So, like, Rick and Karen are making out in the back seat, and Gary's just, like, looking in that rearview mirror, like, hey. When is it my turn? When is it my turn, Rick?
I always missing was, like, a bear suit to, like, poke over the side of the van.
When is it my turn?
Yeah. That's the van. I mean, the car.
And, like, Rose is all in the van. Oh, God. This is what it needed. It was VanCon, you know? So Rick's he's getting hot and heavy in the back seat, and Rose is like trying to get Gary interested, and eventually he just starts making out with her. He's like, all right, well, I guess I'll just like fantasize about this being Karen or something really awkward, and he starts making out with this girl, and then what happens, Chris?
He starts getting flexible in the front seat, say at least, and he's lying out front. His whole body's lying out over the front 2 seats, and his leg kicks the brake release. And now this car is now careening down this hillside into the beach, but for some reason they're all still going at it like they don't feel anything.
Yeah,
like,
so like they were like parked on like a mountain, like a hill,
like an overlook,
like
to
an
the
overlook.
beach.
Yeah. And the car just goes rolling straight down to the beach.
Yeah, and they're just going away like business as usual.
Yeah, they're like, oh, somebody's getting hot and heavy somewhere because this car is moving.
Maybe it's me.
And then I guess what in maybe any other circumstance might have put them in jail. The car rolls into the ocean, and they just kind of hop out and hop around. And we're like,
yeah.
And it's like they just destroyed Victor's car.
Yeah.
Are there any consequences for this?
Nope. We will never call back to this again.
No. All we see is Victor. We cut to Victor sitting alone in front of the ice cream place with like mountains of Coke cups.
Yeah.
And he goes, fucking assholes. Oh, boy.
Do you think they ever like got back in that spot and at least gave Victor a ride with AAA or anything? Or?
I thought, you know what I thought was they should have had is a part where they rolled up with the car and opened the door and all this water came out. And Victor just looks at him like, you motherfuckers.
That'd be good.
Where are the girls? They drowned.
We laid them out.
Oh, yeah, about that. So we go back to the school and Rick. Okay, so like this scene's just at the school for like 1 second. Basically, Rick asks Gary if he can borrow the key to his grandma's house because tonight's the night. It's the quote, big night, Chris. Yep. He's going to take Karen over to Gary's dead grandma's house and give her the business with the smell of mothballs,
sweaters,
and old cat piss. Just.
And shawls. They're going to bang on a shawl.
And so Gary's like, oh, yeah, sure. That sounds great. And he's all pissed about it, you know. Cut to the ice cream place. Rick's strolling in. He's ready. He's ready for the old big night, you know. And he walks up to like Gary and David, and they're just playing foosball.
Yeah.
And so he goes like, hey, Gary, do you have that key for me? And he's like, oh, what key?
Yeah, you playing dumb. And you know, he's been like, I think besides trying to figure out how to explain the key, also plotting how to kill Rick.
He's like, if I get them both, maybe. And here's the thing, though, is like, do you think when Gary, he knows where that key is for sure?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Do you think he was like, and he just maybe like threw it somewhere? So he's like, no, he'll never find it.
Yeah, like down the garbage disposal.
He's like, got to get rid of every possible way in.
Yeah.
So Rick, he's desperate to find a place, and Gary tells him. So, like, I don't even understand what really happens here. It's like Gary and David are like, oh, why are you playing with that girl, you know, when you could be with a woman?
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you guys talking about?
Oh,
And they're
the
like,
redhead.
yeah, you know that redhead? We screwed her 9 times already. And he's like, you screwed some lady 9 times? And then for some reason he's all jealous about it. He's like, well, I want in on this.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, well, you want to hang out with that girl. We're going to go hang out with this woman.
Yeah.
Cut to, so like they leave and then Rick's like, all right, hold on. I'll go with you. I'll blow off my big date to go see about screwing this woman. Cut to
Streetwalker. She's leaning against this like streetlight, and she looks like Marty McFly's mom in Back to the Future Part 2 at Biff's Pleasure Island.
She does. Like a real hard on her look, Leah Thompson. Like just oh god. And so she's just sitting there, like she's leaning up against this pole, like, what do you want? And they're like, oh yeah, we the old business.
We've heard word.
Yeah, yeah. And she's like, all right, well, it's $30. And David's like, oh great, 10 apiece. And she's like, no, you fucking idiot. $30 a person.
You think I'm gonna take you all at once for 30?
And they're like, well, we don't have that type of money. And Gary goes, like, Rick goes like, well, how about 75? Come on, huh? Group discount? He's like trying to talk her
He's
down.
wheeling and dealing.
And then eventually she's like, no, it's 30 a person.
She's a very prude businesswoman.
And so basically they're like, all right, well, I mean, we walked all the way out here. We got to have sex with this person. This barely a person. I mean, this woman is so like gone with drugs and life has hit her so hard that she's not much more than like a torso with legs, you know? Like, she's just...
She can blow away in the wind.
I mean,
no one will know she's
really
missing.
sad. Like,
she's a garbage bag in the wind.
Yeah.
Tumbling down the road.
She's got nothing left. Absolutely nothing left.
Waiting for the ocean to wash her away.
And so they go like, all right, David, we'll pay the lady. And this is the worst part, by the way. He takes out his wallet in the street. And I'm like, oh, no, she's a cop.
Yeah.
No. Because I'm like, if there's one thing I know from watching all those shows where they catch guys like with prostitutes, nobody has ever pulled out a wallet on the street. Like, what do you do?
Well, this shows a certain level of knowledge for
he
this.
just pulls out his Velcro wallet on the street. He's like, all right, let me count it out. So they go down to this, what I put as like some sort of basement thing.
Yeah, like she claims, this is the busiest night for me. We better make it quick. This is a busy night,
she said this is the busy night.
Yeah.
And like, so she's sitting there and like not making this fun at all.
No.
They're
Oh,
just
God.
like, oh God. I don't know if this is worth $30. I don't know if this is worth dying for. They're like in this flop house basement, with for some reason a lot of neon lights, which I didn't get. Like,
yeah, I didn't know she had a power down there.
it's like she lives in a sign graveyard, like, you know, that like a big Vegas graveyard of like old neon signs.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
This is like the one in LA in some basement that a hooker lives in and just fucks by the Bud Light broken neon sign.
By the Budweiser frog sign from like 1992.
And so basically they're like, all right, Gary, you go first. And he gets this like bizarrely serious look on his face. And she's like emasculating him while he's standing there. She's like, all right, come on, pull it out. Pull it out.
What are you, a fucking virgin? Jesus.
And he has this face like he's like going to turn Ted Bundy at any moment.
Oh, the whole movie, yeah.
Because he like all of a sudden, oh, and you know what? This is the one part where he shuts his mouth. Because he like kind of gets real like stiff jawed. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck this girl. I'm gonna fuck this hooker. Yeah, I can fucking do it. And he like pulls down his pants, and then she's like, oh, all right, gotta get it up, I guess. And starts, touching it and everything. And she's like, all right, come on. And then it cuts back to them, and they're like, what's taking so long? It's like, it's been like 10 seconds. And then like Gary stands up and does his pants, and David goes over for his turn, and Gary just walks over to the stairs and just starts vomiting.
Yeah.
Rick's looking at him as like, was it that bad? I mean, I paid $30, so.
The other guy's like, no, it's mine dollars.
He's like, well, no refunds, so like, I mean, I gotta go. But
Yeah.
Gary, is it that bad? What's down there, Gary? What did you see? Oh, God. So we cut to Gary like going to bed for the night. And at first part I thought like, oh, maybe it was like a bad dream or something.
Yeah, it was very oddly cut, this transition.
Like it goes real quick and then he just starts itching his crotch.
Well, I thought he was about to do something else.
Yeah, you're thinking like, oh yeah, what a great dream, you know?
Yeah. Better finish this one off.
Okay, before we advance from IMDb, one little piece of trivia. The actress playing that call girl was actually propositioned during the shooting of that shot on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So if you want to believe how much this lady looks like a hooker, very much so. So we go into class, and like Gary's sitting there in class just... Well, he's all late, right? So he like walks in and she's like, "You're late, Gary." And he's like sitting there and he's itching his crotch and his books fall. And he like walks to his desk and they're all trying to take a test. And he's just sitting there itching his crotch over and over. And he looks over and he's like, "David," or he's like, Rick, my dick itches. And he's like, "Mine too." And then they were like, "David, how about you?" And he's like, "It's on fire."
That would have been great if they cut back and like Gary his crotch is now like smoking from the friction of scratching it.
Like he's getting the smoke out of his ears and everything.
Well, that would have been funny if the smoke alarm went off. Like, that would have been a great gag.
So basically the teacher tells them like, "Get out of the class." And so they run to the bathroom and they got their pants down and Rick's examining it and he's like, "You got crabs. We all got crabs." And they're like, "Oh, fuck. Well, what do we do? How do we get rid of them?" He goes, "I know." Cut to...
Swimming pool. Public swimming pool, mind you.
So these three guys are just standing in the pool.
Yeah.
And Rick says something like, "Yeah, all you got to do is drown them."
That doesn't work. Because they're going to go from that area, they're going to go to dry hair. They're going to, like, people's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll just shave it and that'll get rid of them." No, because they will jump to different hairs on the body. There you go. Not that I know personally, it's just a fact.
So they're trying to, quote, drown their crabs. And then, like, Karen and her friend show up and she goes up to Rick and she's like, "Well, where were you last night?" And he's like, "Where were you?" He's like, "I was trying to call you all night." She's like, "Oh, well, didn't hear it." He's like, "Oh, yeah, you should get that checked."
Like master manipulator.
So she's like, "Oh, we're going to go over here. Can you put some lotion on us?" And they go over and then all of a sudden David can't stand it. And he's like, "They didn't drown." And he jumps back in the pool. "Shake it up." Yeah. And they all dive back in the pool. Cut to a pharmacy.
Yeah.
And so like
just if you need something, just say what you need. And they have to drag the scene on.
So you have this real uncomfortable thing where they're asking the pharmacist, he's like, "Oh, we need to get rid of ticks, and then we need to get rid of lice." And eventually he's like, I got an itch in our crotch. And he's like, "Your balls itch? Crabs?" He's like, "Kids these days." Oh boy, in my day.
My day, we lit it on fire.
And so he just gives him the stuff. He's like, "Yeah, it'll be gone in no time." Go to the ice cream place. Gary rolls up in his pizza mobile and he sees David and Mr. Big Dick hanging out playing some pinball. Gary comes in and, you know, the one concern he has in life is, "Where's Karen?"
Yep.
And David's like, "Oh yeah, Rick's taking her out."
Doing the deed.
And Victor goes, "Yeah, he's going to, quote, bust her cherry," is what Victor says to him.
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
And, oh, okay, no. So they say, though, that Rick's taking her to the football field. And Victor says, "Yeah, to, quote, bust her cherry." And I wrote, "What a way to lose your virginity on a high school football field." And then, so, like, Gary runs off and Dick Boy starts laughing and David just slaps him in the face. And we go to the football field.
Yeah.
So this scene is horrible.
Yeah.
Is like Rick and Karen sneak into the press box, and I guess Karen's just going to lose her virginity on the press box of this football stadium.
Yeah. Did he like? I feel like we missed an opportunity for a line from him, like, "Oh, I'm going to give you the longest yard," or
touchdown. That's what he said when he was done. You know, going for 2. Hail Mary. And so, like, they're getting busy in this press box, and, like, Gary shows up to the football field, and he's, like, looking under the bleachers, and he's, like he's sitting there, like, looking for Bigfoot, this fucking guy, like, looking for 2 people fucking on a football field. He's just creeping around, being as creep as all hell.
Yeah.
And he's, like, peering over bleachers and stuff, like, "Where are they?"
It's like,
"I can hear sex."
I can smell it.
It's like, Gary, let it the fuck go.
needs to let it
dude.
go.
Jesus Christ, this guy.
Yeah. He needs someone to talk to. A therapist, maybe.
So we go back to the ice cream place. Well, this is the part as like after Gary's looking for, Rick and Karen having sex at that football field. I wrote, are we supposed to feel sympathy for him? Because I sure as fuck don't at this point. I'm like, this guy is a creepy serial killing motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to feel sorry for this guy? Like, am I supposed to feel sympathy for this guy? None at all.
Couldn't tell you. Maybe, do you honestly think that they were expecting the audience to sympathize with this guy?
I don't know.
This is like
because
almost
really,
like
he comes off as a real creep.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know, because the way this movie ends, I can't wait to get to that. It's very close. Yeah. So we go back to the ice cream place, and like Gary's sitting there. They're cleaning up. There's trash all over the place, and Gary's just sitting at a table smoking a cigarette, just like sitting there contemplating. Can he kill both of them? Can he hide the bodies?
Yeah.
Maybe he should just keep Karen's body with him for a while. Maybe drive to Mexico.
Does he keep the head or the body? Can't make up his mind.
So when he's at his lowest moment, Rick and Karen walk into the ice cream parlor. They're all dancing around, just stuff that old first sex high, I guess.
Yeah.
And like Rick walks over to the table, and like Karen goes to order herself an ice cream, and Rick comes over and he's like, "Hey Gary, what's going on? I did the deed, He's like, what did you do? And he's like, quote, I was the first one to get to Miss Thing over there. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, I fucked Karen. He like doesn't put it eloquent at all. I fucked her.
Surprise.
Hey, couldn't wait around for you to give me the key to your grandmother's house, could I? Meaning what? Meaning that I was the first one to get to Miss Thing over there. What? I fucked Karen. You're full of shit. You're lying. What do you want me to do? Show you an instant replay? You fucked Karen? Shh. She'll hear you.
And so like Gary gets all like pissed when she walks over. She's like, oh, hey, Gary. And he's like, fucking suffer. And he just walks out of this place. And she's like, what's his problem? I wrote, hopefully Gary's going to drive himself off a cliff and maybe nobody else will get hurt as we watch him drive home. I'm like, Gary, there's plenty of cliffs over in Malibu. Yeah. Just take one and just go off it, please. For the sake of everybody in this whole town, Gary, please. Instead, we go to the school bathroom for just a quick scene where David and Gary are in the bathroom, and David's like, I can't wait. It's almost Christmas vacation. I only put that in because it's going to be an important plot point.
Yes.
So we go to the library, and like Gary asks the librarian for something, and then he like looks over and he sees Rick and Karen arguing.
Yeah.
Right? She's giving him the business.
Yeah.
This is so bad though. And she's like trying to get his attention. She's like, Rick, you motherfucker. And he eventually like breaks his arm away, and he's like, why did you get out of here? You're embarrassing the shit out of me.
What the fuck? Get away from me. I fucked you. What's wrong? Get away.
Like I said, he becomes the real Dice Clay of this. He's like, hey, what do you want, bitch? I'm writing my fucking memoirs over here, fucking martyr in the making over here. This is what I wrote. He's a martyr in the making at this point. Yeah. If you want to hear all about that, listen to our roommates episode. I think Rick grows up to buy a house in Lake Arrowhead and lure young women into it.
Yeah.
And so she starts crying and she runs off. And of course, who follows, Chris?
Oh, well, Mr. Gary himself is going to be in hot pursuit because, God forbid, she's not out of his sight or his mind for 5 seconds.
It's like, Gary, you fucking creep, dude. He sees her in the hallway and she's crying. She's obviously having a bad fucking time. Doesn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
He comes up and he's like, Karen, what's wrong? Karen? And just think, Chris, that's probably the last thing she's going to hear in her life is Gary's voice going, Karen, meatball sub.
I can see you.
And he's like, asked her what's wrong. And she's like, Gary, I don't really want to talk right now. I'll be fine. Please leave me alone. And he's like, no, Karen, I'll help you. And she's like, well, I don't know how you're going to help me. Rick's a real asshole. We broke up. And he's like, how come? And she's like, oh, I'm pregnant.
That's when the steam comes out of his ears.
And I wrote, well, that was fast.
Yeah.
I guess there was a passage of time, Yeah. So I'm like, the next day, holy shit.
Yeah, just throwing up like crazy.
Yeah, steam comes out his ears, and he like goes into the library, and he confronts Rick, and they get in some big fight. And Rick is just like, Gary, you're just jealous it wasn't you. And he's like, hey, you can't treat her like that. You can't treat her. She's a princess. She's a princess.
Boy.
So we cut from that. They've gotten a big fight to a parking lot. And Rick and David and a bunch of girls are like piling into a van, and they're all wearing like ski outfits. They're going on this ski trip. And Rick's like in the back seat making out with some new girl already. Real playa. And then we go to Gary's grandma's house. So like Gary takes Karen inside, and I wrote, I'm assuming to his Dexter-esque kill room he has in the back. Oh, don't mind all the tarps. Don't mind that at all.
Yeah, we're fumigated.
So like when she's walking in, he's like, oh yeah, my grandma died a while ago. We don't know what to do with the place, it'll be fine. And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing at this point? Like I didn't get it. But apparently like they were telling everybody they were going to go on that ski trip, but instead they're like at Gary's grandma's house, like hiding out.
Yeah.
And so he keeps telling her, he's like, it's going to be okay, Karen. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to take care of this. We're going to take care of this together. And she starts crying, and he's like, don't cry, Karen, don't cry, Karen. Can you see me? Close your eyes, Karen. Close your eyes.
Put this in your mouth.
So then we go to the doctor, and Gary and Karen are meeting with the doctor, and they're going to get an abortion.
Yep. This is when a movie takes a sudden turn.
So this movie spent like a whole hour and 10 minutes being like a sex comedy.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's going to do a complete 180 and smack you in the face with real life consequences for everything that happened in this movie.
In the last 10 minutes.
And boy, does this movie take a hard, deep turn.
Yeah.
And this is about to end on such a fucking downer. It's like, I don't think we've ever covered a movie on this podcast that ends in this much of a downer. Even The Teacher. I would say even in The Teacher, where he dies in the end, it still isn't as much as a fucking downer as this movie will become.
At least that one was like kind of funny.
Yeah, this one is like the last 20 minutes of this movie, there are no jokes to be had.
No.
So they go to the doctor. She's like, it's 250 cash for some reason.
No names.
Yeah, I'll be worried about the abortion clinic that only takes cash.
Is this in Tijuana? Is this in Mexico?
So we get this montage, which is this crazy montage of Gary like going into his parents' house and like looking for money around the place and like carrying out all this speaker equipment and like stealing money from this purse, and juxtaposed with like Karen's legs being strapped in the stirrups.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like it couldn't be more awkward.
No, and like the gas, like the face mask is going over her,
and this is all to like montage music.
Yeah,
shake it up. No, it's not that.
Scrape it out.
And so like Gary goes to like the pawn shop and I guess like sells his stereo, or his parents' stereo, I guess.
Yeah,
and, like,
that ought to cover a scrape, right?
And then he goes into his job and he's like, I need to borrow $100, and his boss gives it to him. So we go to the waiting room, and for some reason Gary's in this waiting room with
a Christmas tree,
with a fucking Christmas tree
and a bag of grapefruits or oranges,
like a bag of oranges.
Yeah.
And I wrote, what the fuck's with the oranges?
Is there like a missed scene? Like a deleted
I was like,
scene?
I don't know. Is he going to go like sell these oranges on the road to make a few extra bucks at this point? What is the plan?
That would have been a great like cut scene of him like on La Cienega, like swinging fruit around, like running up to like windows rolled down, like trying to.
What the fuck is he doing with these oranges and that Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Bring it to the hospital?
So I was like, is she spending Christmas Eve here now?
Is he
like
trying to have a
Christmas
Charlie Brown Christmas? You know,
yeah.
He's like so fucking pathetic with this goddamn Christmas tree and these oranges.
I thought he was, bringing Christmas to her.
I hear citrus is good for the baby. Oh, I mean,
the vagina.
So he goes in the hospital room and he creeps up on her while she's sleeping, and he's still holding that Christmas tree and those oranges. And she wakes up and just looks at him and starts laughing.
Well, clearly it's still the meds.
Yeah. Cut to them going home to the grandma's house. And like they're sitting they're like sitting with their shirts off for some reason. Like, so she's in the bed with looks like her shirt off, reading a magazine or something. It's like on top of her, but she's asleep. And Gary's like reading a magazine without his shirt on. And then he like notices she's asleep. And I'm like, oh no, Gary, please don't. The poor girl just had an abortion, Gary. Please, please. Can you wait a day? Please. And he like creeps over and he takes that magazine off her chest and like pulls her shirt down so it doesn't like expose her. And I'm just like, am I again supposed to feel sympathy for this fucking guy?
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, they shouldn't even had this. But he like tucks her in and he turns off the light and he goes to the couch and he's gonna sleep there and he's like, you know, oh.
I can like hear the fedora against his hair like ruffling as he tips it, and like the trench coat is now coming off the shoulders and the facial hair is coming in, and then next thing you know he's espousing the heroism of atheism in the next scene, I'm sure.
Like, are we supposed to feel sympathy for this fucking guy?
No.
He's like, yeah, I'm a good guy. I didn't rape her. Like, that's what it comes off as. He's like, I could have... Like, do you imagine a scene where he's like, I could have raped you last night, Karen. I could have fucking did whatever I wanted. But you know what? I slept on the fucking couch.
Yeah.
But instead, it goes to, like, the next day. And, like, Gary's all making breakfast. And he's like, come on, Karen, your eggs are going to get cold.
Oh,
and she's
God.
like, all right.
It'll be funny. She like, all right, thanks for the eggs, and like scrapes them on the ground and pretends like she ate it. Like she's like stabbing around to feel if there's like any pills in the eggs. And
yeah. And I like that part when she comes out and she's like, oh, I'm so hungry. I'm like, must be those post-abortion munchies, you know?
God. Hey, no longer eating for two, so, you know.
Oh, I feel like everything's been just scraped out of me.
Hashtag scrape it out.
Scrape it out. So, okay. They're sitting at that table, like, eating, and he's like, oh, hey, sorry, we couldn't go to the mountains, huh? We had to stay back and get that abortion. And she's like, oh, you know, that's fine. He's like, let me ask you a question, Karen. Do you miss any of them? And she's like who? What are you
fucking
talking about, Gary?
You know, the gang and all.
Yeah. Do you miss the gang, Rick? And she's like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, it's gonna be fine because even though we didn't go, I'm gonna make up for it with this big party I'm having on Saturday, my birthday party. And he's like, am I invited? And she's like, well, of course you are. I mean, you did pay for my abortion. And I'm just gonna invite you to my birthday party. You gave me an early gift.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can have 2 slices of cake.
So then we go to the night, and like Gary's like packing up his clothes, getting ready to leave tomorrow, and she's like, why are you doing that now? And he's like, just want to get a head start.
No one knows where we are.
She's all like, oh, okay, well, you know, I just wanted to say thank you, Gary, and you know, you've really helped me out. You've been a great friend. Actually, thank you very much. You're a really good friend, Gary. And he turns to her and
really laying that in there.
He just stares at her and he's like, Karen, I love you. I've always have. Porsche. And then she just like kind of looks at him and they kiss. They kind of make out a little bit.
I think this was her obligatory kiss to him. Like, oh God, just shut up.
She's like, yeah. It's like, I guess I got to give him something, like just to kind of
I owe him,
get him to hopefully not rape me tonight or roofie colada me, because I've had a real rough weekend. Someone say colada. Backing away his copy of Fatherhood. And so I wrote, after they start making out to Journey, I wrote, well, maybe Gary might not have to kill her after all. Yeah. Go to Gary's house. He comes home and he's like holding his skis and everything, and he walks up and his parents are in the front yard and they're like, oh, how was your trip? And yeah, great. And they just go in. I swear to God, I thought there was going to be a part where the dad goes like, Gary, while you were gone, somebody broke in and stole a bunch of shit. It's like, wouldn't that have been perfect?
Yeah.
And he can be like, whoa, really? But no, they don't mention anything about the missing stereo, the missing money.
Yeah, disappointing.
Gary, you got afterbirth all over you. So then we cut to Gary at a jewelry store, and he's like buying Karen like a locket, and he's like, it's for my girlfriend. I want it to say, lots of love, Karen, or something.
With a K. Make sure it's with a K. And he goes like, yeah, fuck, we get it. With a
like,
K. Jesus Christ.
Kay, trust me. So he goes to this party. Gary pulls up in his pizza mobile, and he pulls up to the bash. He gets out of the car and he looks at his his present, puts it in his pocket. He's feeling fucking good.
Yeah, on top of the world.
Pops that fucking collar, walks in, and he's like, hey, David, hey, Victor, hey, Big Dick, how you doing? Hey, guys, seen Karen? And he's like, yeah, I think I saw her in the kitchen, man. Gary opens the door.
Oh, slow open, and we can just see the look on his face.
And the light changes.
Yes.
Becomes dark.
Yes.
As
Rick and Miss Karen are now getting amorous in this room.
Sitting there making out.
Yeah.
Making out in the dark kitchen.
All is forgiven, apparently.
And Gary just stares.
It's a long, hard stare.
And Karen stares back.
Yeah.
And then like Rick kind of stares over too.
Yeah.
And they almost all look like they're about to cry.
Yeah.
And then Gary runs out of this party, gets in his car, drives off, starts crying.
Roll credits.
When I saw that the movie ended that way, I was like, what the fuck?
That's what I said.
Like, you're half expecting, like, the cliched, like, she's going to run out to the car and she's like, Gary, you know, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I really love you. Nope.
Yeah, I actually said, oh my God.
This is how I was telling my wife today when I was texting her about this movie, because she hadn't seen this movie. And I was like, this is one of those movies that ends how it should end.
Yes.
For a one of these romantic comedies where the nerdy guy is always getting the girl who's not interested in him by just, I don't know, buying her enough things or like doing her enough favors that she's like, oh, I guess I can fuck you now.
Yeah.
No. How many times in your life have you heard of like the quote, good guy?
Oh, God.
He's like, I don't know what's wrong with these fucking broads. I mean, I do everything for them. I took her out to fucking dinner. She won't even suck my dick. I mean, what the hell? That's the fucking attitude you get all the time.
Yeah.
And like movies, I really think that movies kind of reinforce that a lot. Where it's
all
just
the
like,
time.
oh yeah, guys, just, you know, buy her a bunch of shit, you know, be nice, hang around, be a fucking creep. And just, you know, when her life goes to shambles, you're there to pick up the pieces and, you know, put yourself in. Get yourself in that tight situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, even though people are just enraged by the way that this movie ends, that's fucking life, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, in one sense or another, I'd say we've all been Gary at one point.
Right.
We've all had that heartbreak. I mean, in high school, you like a girl, she doesn't like you back. You don't understand how the world works. You maybe pursue a little bit too much, and then you find out the hard way that she's not interested.
2 restraining orders later.
I don't know. I think, actually, I was like, I thought the last 20 minutes of this movie were
The most realistic.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
It was like you spend so long getting lured into this like fun fantasy. You think it's just another one of these dumb beach girl type movies where you're having a good time and everybody's going to, you know, get together at the end and we're all just going to ride off into the sunset and our fucking grease car is going to go up into the air and fly away. Everybody's happy. No. We get the harsh reality of like, you know, that's fucking life,
Sometimes
man.
it doesn't go your way. Sometimes you can't be the hero. Sometimes you can spend $800 on a locket. It's just not going to happen.
If he had just given up when he had the chance.
Yeah.
The problem is that like you're saying, I think the only thing I see about this movie is like, where we keep asking ourselves, are we supposed to feel sorry for Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we supposed to see it as like, she's not interested. She was never interested, and he should have stopped pursuing her. She gave him all the signals that she was not interested.
She gave him so much rope.
But he just kept going, and he would not let up. And she made the mistake, I guess, in a moment of weakness of kissing him because he had done so much for her, and she doesn't feel that way for him. But I guess she's got to reciprocate in some way to say thank you.
Yeah.
And in a moment of weakness, I guess kisses him because she's like, well, I guess that's what he wants.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not what she wanted.
The end.
So your recommendation?
Yeah, I do. I do recommend this. It's kind of funny because the way you feel at the end, the way I described it was like you're sitting there enjoying it in the theater, and then the last 10 minutes, someone comes up from behind you and stabs you in the throat. And as you bleed out, the credits are rolling, and then you die.
I think it's so amazing that it ends with him crying. Like, he's just sitting there crying in the car, and we just see the credits roll over that.
I was like, is this a French film? Like, what the fuck's going on here?
It's so wonderful, though.
It
Like,
is.
it's just like,
It's true to life. It's impactful. It's relevant. It's
You'll never
timeless.
forget it.
Yeah, it's timeless. It's Yeah.
So, like, I read a bunch of reviews for this movie, like, on IMDb and stuff, and, like, message boards, and there's definitely, like, two sides of it.
Oh, of
It's,
course.
like, there's people that think Gary's a fucking creep, for sure, and people were like, what do you think Gary did afterwards? And I read that some guy was like, well, he obviously shows up back to that party with the machine gun and, starts taking his revenge.
Yeah.
Last American Virgin 2.
Yeah.
School's out. I don't know. Shots fired.
Double dip. Shots fired. Hit the deck.
But and the other side is like, oh, that fucking bitch, he did all this stuff for her and everything. And it's like, God damn, man.
I know. Were those guys members of the FSA? Fedora Society of America?
So, Chris, you were saying earlier you had a theory about where Gary drove.
Yes.
Once this party was done. So
Gary,
his life's in shambles.
Yeah, and he drove all straight in the morning, not knowing, and he sees all these cars parked out of this house on the beach.
Hello, pizza man?
Yeah. And he unwittingly shows up. He's got a car full of pizza. And he's like...
and meatball subs.
And he sees this. And he goes there, and this woman opens the door, and her name is Ducky. She's got this big brown perm, and she goes, hello, pizza man. And then cut to black.
You hear that sound?
How can't you?
If this is the first time you've listened to this podcast, you might not know this, but every podcast episode, we go back to the first episode we ever recorded on this show, episode 1, 1977's The Van, starring Stuart Goetz and Danny DeVito, about a young ginger boy who gets himself a big yellow van called the Straight Arrow, complete with waterbed and toaster and TV and more. And he goes on these adventures, much like Gary, trying to lure girls into his into his van to do them in the back. And he works for Danny DeVito over at the car wash. And we always wondered, what did Bobby and DeVito do after the van ended? Chris?
Yeah. I think DeVito and Bobby were present at the house in the beginning of the movie at the party. I think they followed them from the pizza place. And they were present there, and they followed thinking they were going to get there ahead of the boys and plant real drugs and get them all knocked out and then have the women for themselves. But along the way, Bobby decided to go drag racing with another van, and it never happened.
I imagine at one point, Gary obviously goes home and hangs himself in the garage of his parents' house.
Yeah.
And then a classified ad goes out the next day for a new pizza boy. And who should show up but our old ginger friend Bobby? And the guy goes, all right, this is a tough job. We got a lot of broads that order pizza. And look, let me tell you something. The last kid, I'll tell you, he kept showing up to the houses, boners and all. And he was a real horn dog, this one. Ended up killing himself, believe it or not. Don't know what happened. But we need a new delivery boy. And I guess that van of yours, it can work.
It'll fit the bill.
And Bobby goes over and tells his old employer, DeVito, he's like, I got this new job, and there's all these broads, Danny, and I got to deliver pizza to him. He goes, Bobby, I got a perfect plan. We're going to put a little bit of drugs on top of those pizza. And Bobby, those broads are going to eat that pizza. And then when they're done, we'll sneak in. And then we'll have our way.
Done.
There you go. Whew. Thanks again for joining us. Another episode of The Grindbin. I'm Mike Wood.
I'm Chris Mann.
If you want to get in touch with us, grindbin@gmail.com, grindhousefilm.com. We're on Twitter @grindpod, Instagram. And if you enjoy this show, please rate and review us on iTunes.
And also hit that big purple rectangular subscribe button. Bobby, slice the pizza.
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Yeah, I made the team. But you're a hooker.
Get that goddamn thing out of your mouth.
Spooky got no real poetry.
Hello, pizza man.
We're gonna play a little game, baby.
I just love fun and games. Get a little girl all hot and horny.
This is Los Angeles.
You could have looked decent once in a while. And maybe Daddy wouldn't have had to kill himself because he couldn't get it up anymore.
What a shame.
Come on, just step on the gas before we get creepy.
And